You are listening to Smart Women's Dating Podcast, episode number 3. Welcome to Smart Women's Dating Podcast. I am your host, certified life coach Laerkenielsen, and I help smart, independent women attract the love they deeply desire without having to chase or settle. This podcast will give you the mindset tools and insights you need to finally crack the code to your love life. Are you ready? Then let's go. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so glad you're here. In this episode, I'm going to answer one of the most frequent questions I get from women in my community and my clients. How do I find the needle in the haystack? In other words, where do I meet good men? And I'm going to give you a short answer and then a long one. And so the short answer is here. Everywhere. You find them everywhere. So now you can go out and meet him, or you can listen to the rest of this episode and hear my long answer. So I am going to give you 3 tips on how you can start meeting men that are interesting to you. But before I do that, I will have to say a few words about mindset, because already when you ask the question, where do I meet good men? That tells me something about your mindset about men. And I know it's easy to slip into this mindset, especially if you've been single for a long time or if you didn't have great experience with dating for a while. Yeah, we tend to get into this scarcity thinking that there are no good men left and that they're all sort of taken off the market, which is sort of a funny expression that always makes me think of real estate. So this is what we tend to think, or that there are only a few good men left and they are very difficult to find among all the not so good ones. Almost as if they were hiding in this secret place that we don't know about, or like finding a needle in a haystack. And so just to take out the drama of finding a needle in a haystack, I've Googled it and I've found that there are at least 3 ways in which you can successfully find a needle in a haystack. So I'm just going to briefly share that with you. The first one is the tedious one. This is where you search a handful of hay at a time. And it was demonstrated when an Italian artist decided to try this out in Palais de Tokyo, here in Paris in 2014. They put a haystack inside the museum, and it was a pile that was taller than the artist himself. And someone put a needle inside it, and then the event was that he gave himself 24 hours to find it, and he found it after 18 hours. And what he did was he took one handful at a time, he bended the hay in different directions, different angles, and if he couldn't feel the needle, he would throw away the hay in a pile next to the other one. And so he did that for 18 hours until he found it. And when you think about it, that's not actually that long, 18 hours. Then, of course, there's a more fast way. This is a more brutal way. You just set the haystack on fire, you burn down the whole thing, and then you take a magnet and you hold it over the ashes, and then you find the needle. But, of course, you could have a haystack that's too moist to set on fire. And then what you want to do instead is you want to dump it in a swimming pool and wait for the needle to sink. And then, of course, you want to dive into the water and you want to bring your magnet so you can search out the needle. Now, why do I even bother telling you this? This is because I want to open your mind up to seeing that even if it was like finding a needle in a haystack, which it is not, because there is a far higher percentage of men that could be potential partners to you than a needle in a haystack, even if you are extremely selective. Well, even if it was like that, it's just a question of having a smart approach to it. The thing you want to utilize in this process is that the needle has different properties than a hay straw. The needle will respond to a magnet and the hay straw won't. And this is what allows you to separate it out. And if you translate this into a dating context, you could say that your unique properties is what will attract a person who responds specifically to that. So your mindset about good men and whether it's difficult or not to find them is so decisive for how easily you will find them. And I can give you all the strategies in the world, but if you don't believe it's possible, he could be standing right in front of you without you even noticing it. And we tend to think that we need to see at least some evidence before we can believe, but that's where we have it the opposite way around. You actually need to believe before you can notice the evidence, because our brain has this tendency of noticing more of the things that fit our existing beliefs and ignore it when we see something that contradicts them. So if you have a programming that says the good ones are gone, then it's very difficult for your brain to notice when you see evidence of the opposite, whereas you easily see and remember when this belief is confirmed. This is called confirmation bias, and you will think that this is kind of depressing because you are kept in the same loop of scarcity around men. But the good news is that you can work intentionally with your confirmation bias. You can use it to change your belief and have your brain search for evidence for a new belief that serves you much better. So start by deciding to believe that there are plenty of men who are interesting, who are your age, and who are looking for the same as you. You just haven't noticed them yet. You haven't developed your skill of noticing them. And then start noticing men that looks like your age and that could potentially be single and be looking for a committed relationship. So now that you know how much belief and mindset matters, I'm going to give you the 3 steps to take. And just for clarity, I am talking about ways to meet men organically. You already know that the apps exist, and it's definitely a tool I recommend using as well. But the 3 steps I will focus on today is all going to be about meeting men in person. So the first one is probably going to make you think, hey, wait, what is that even a step? But I want you to listen carefully because this is actually the most important step. Continue going to the exact same places and doing the exact same activities as you already do, but do it in a different energy. Be more open to connect. Take off your headset, take out your earbuds, put your phone on mute and leave it in your bag. Look around you, notice who's there, make eye contact, smile, be present, smell the coffee in the coffee shop. Say yes to people when they invite you. Connect with everyone, not just the men that you think could be interesting. This is an energetic thing. It's not about flirting with the barista. You can do that, of course, if you want, but it's about bringing you into the vibe of being someone who's present and approachable. You want to make this your second nature so it feels natural, and at some point, your man could be in the room noticing you from a distance and feeling this energy. And by the way, this also feels much better to you when you practice being present in the moment and taking a break from the constant stream of thoughts about what to do next and problem you need to solve at work, etc. You calm your whole nervous system. You get a chance to just breathe and feel what it's like to be you right now in this place among these people that you can connect with and that all have a story. So now you might think, who the heck has the time for this? But this is where I want you to just practice this for maybe 1 hour every day. Every time you go grocery shopping, go to the cafe, to the gym, to the library, or to see an exhibition, or when you go walking the dog, and whatever you do in your daily life. Put yourself into the energy of being present and approachable. So step number 2 is to add some new activities into your life. Expand your circle and meet new people. And here it's really important that you choose some activities that you like or that you're curious about. First of all, because you want to make sure that you can have a good time, even if you don't meet anyone interesting. But secondly, because when you do this, you already have at least one interest in common with the people you meet, and that's of course a good starting point. Here, of course, you also want to put yourself into the energy of being open, approachable, and present in the moment. But you can deliberately choose to go to smaller group activities if you don't like to go to these things where there's a lot of people. Some examples of things that you can consider are signing up for a class, something that interests you. It could be cooking, dancing, philosophy, or 16th century French poetry. Whatever is your interest, go and search for that. You could go on a hike. Often you can find someone who organizes hikes in groups, and it's actually a great way to connect because when you are walking and talking side by side, it feels less confrontational than when you sit in front of each other and it's almost like interview style. It's easier to open up to a person you just met when you're walking next to them, and it's also easier to shift who you are talking with when you're walking in a group. And you can also take a small break when you just walk for yourself. You could also go walking in your local park or on the beach. And here I have a small bonus tip that I heard from someone on Instagram, and I really like it. You can borrow a dog. If you have friends who have a dog, then borrow a dog and go walking this dog in places where other people walk their dogs and see how easy it is to connect with other dog people. I sometimes have this feeling that everyone who owns a dog here in Paris, they know each other. They meet up in the same parks every Saturday and they catch up on each other's life like this. You could also go to some conferences or lectures, something that really interests you. An interesting person talking about a subject that you love. And then, of course, you can sign up for events for singles and maybe even try a speed dating event. And you might feel right now that you're about to throw up, but just hear me out here. On a singles night out, there's another advantage, and that is that you can connect with other single women. So if most of your friend circle is in couples, you might want to get to know some other single women that are around your age and that you can go out with for other events. And the same is actually valid for speed dating. So my recommendation is to not take it too seriously, but just try to have fun. I have personally been on speed dating many years ago in Copenhagen and also once in Paris, and it was a fun and slightly chaotic experience. You can, of course, meet someone, but chances are less than through an app where you consciously select your criteria. But it's always fun to try something new and is a good way for you to connect with other single women. You can also volunteer for an organization or a project locally. And this is, of course, especially relevant if you want to meet a man who has the same interest and who also wants to do these things. And the bonus is that you will also feel that you're making a valuable contribution at the same time. And then you could go to a tasting. So a place where they organize tasting of different foods, different wines, champagne, etc. This can be a fun way to meet new people while you discuss what you like and what you don't like and why. I once heard another dating coach suggest going to a cigar tasting with the reason that there will be a lot of men there. And yes, that is for sure the case, but I'm not sure I would recommend it unless you really like to find a man that smokes cigar. So here in France, there's plenty of possibilities of going to different kind of tasting. Of course, we have cheese, we have wine, we have champagne, we have chocolate, even olive oil. I've been to an olive oil tasting once. And you will learn something about the product qualities and production while you are engaging your senses, and you will meet people who enjoy the same kind of food. Then, of course, there's also the possibilities of joining different meetup groups. So this is an organization that exists in a lot of different countries, and you can sign up for existing groups or you can suggest something yourself. And for expats, you also can consider this organization called Internations. And you don't even have to be an expat to sign up for that. You can just be interested in meeting people with different nationalities. We also have different other kinds of groups here. And just as an example, in Paris, we also have something called On va sortir, which means we are going out. And that is a network with a gazillion social events every single day. And you both can find events in big groups and small groups. So look around in your local area to see what is available, what kind of social network exists already. But if you live in a small city and you don't find any social networks that exist already, then what you can do is create your own circles. And this is step number 3. This is a much more proactive step where you organize some events yourself. And what you can do as an example is decide to do an after-work event maybe once or twice per month in a bar or a cafe in a central place. You don't want to set this up in your private home because then chances are it's going to be too much organization for you and you don't want to do it on a regular basis. And you also want to keep it just simple, short, and open to include new people every time. So you can start by inviting maybe 4 to 5 single women that you know and ask them all to bring one man that they feel is a good and interesting person. but someone that they are not interested in dating themselves, whether that is because they're just not attracted to him, it's a friend, or it could be a colleague and it would not be obvious for them to date him, or it could even be a family member. So someone that they cannot date themselves, but that they feel this is actually a really interesting person. And then each of the men are going to bring a friend who is single. And so like this, you already now have 15 people with a ratio of 2 men for each woman. And then it's just about mingling and having fun and meeting new people, expanding your social circle, and encourage people to bring more friends every time. Make it really short, make it only a couple of hours so it's not dragging out and it's not going to be exhausting for you. And then you will get to know people that you wouldn't have gotten to know otherwise. And you can, of course, connect with some of them in smaller groups and organize other activities together. Again, you want to remember your energy. You want to remember to be in this open, present, and approachable energy. So this is what I had for you today, and I hope this was helpful. And I really hope you felt inspired to get yourself out there in a new way and have fun at the same time. There are so many men out there, and so many of them are looking for a woman just like you. And they're just not sure you exist, because to them it feels like all the good women are gone and it's like looking for the needle in the haystack. So get yourself into places and activities that inspire you and show yourself to the world so the right man can see your uniqueness and be attracted like a magnet to you. If you like what you're hearing on this podcast and you want to get support from a coach on your love journey, I invite you to book a free consult call with me. You will find the link in the show notes. And also, don't forget to subscribe, and I would love it if you would rate and review this podcast, and then you'll also help other women find it.